All right, welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're diving right into the hidden engineering challenges that cause massive, incredibly expensive battery systems to just completely fail. If you've ever felt, kind of overwhelmed by off-grid solar or those really high-powered battery setups, well, you are definitely in the right place. We're going to break down the exact reasons why so many DIYers and, honestly, even seasoned professionals run into these dangerous system-breaking walls.
So, let's kick things off with a pretty frustrating reality. Picture this, you spent thousands of dollars on heavy-duty batteries, your inverter is absolute top of the line, the sun is shining, or maybe the grid just went down, and suddenly, darkness. Everything just randomly shuts down, it looks like the system is completely dead, but you know for a fact the batteries are full. Have you ever wondered why a fully charged system suddenly trips or overheats right when you need it most?
Well, the root cause of all this heartache is something we call the capacity mistake. This happens when people spend an absolute fortune on energy storage. They calculate exactly how many kilowatt hours they need to run their cabin or their backup power, but they completely ignore the massive electrical current flowing through their system. It's like building a giant water tower but hooking it up to a tiny garden hose. They design a system based entirely on how much energy is in the tank, without ever stopping to ask how fast that energy actually needs to squeeze through the pipes.
There is a massive disconnect between common assumptions and actual engineering reality here. People generally assume that upgrading to a 48-volt battery or buying a massive amp-hour bank means you basically have unlimited power. But in reality, it doesn't work like that. It's actually your battery management system limits and the physical flow of the current that completely dictate your actual power output. Capacity is just half the design process, folks. Current is the whole other half.
Okay, let's get into the math behind high current and discover the real bottleneck here.
To figure out what an inverter actually demands from a battery, we use this really simple but absolutely critical equation. I equals P divided by V, or current equals power divided by voltage. Don't let the math scare you. This is the foundational formula you literally have to internalize if you want to successfully build or understand large battery systems.
So, if you're running a big 10,000-watt inverter on a standard 48-volt battery bank, you are pulling a massive 208 amps. Let that sink in for a second. 10,000 divided by 48 is roughly 208. Even though 48 volts is considered high for a DC system, a large inverter is still demanding hundreds of amps from that battery bank. And remember, that's the absolute best-case scenario before we even factor in real-world efficiency losses.
But wait, because no inverter is 100% efficient, right? When you factor in a standard 90% efficiency rate, that number jumps up to an astonishing 231 amps of continuous DC current. That is an enormous amount of electricity to be pushing through wires, terminals, and internal computer boards. This right here is exactly why large systems create extremely high DC currents, and honestly, it's exactly why they fail if they aren't engineered perfectly.
Which brings us to system bottlenecks and those strict internal limits. You see, even if your lithium cells are fully charged and ready to go, the internal battery management system, the BMS, usually has a very strict maximum continuous discharge limit. Most standard batteries out there come with a 100 amp, 150 amp, or maybe a 200 amp BMS. So think back to our math a second ago. If your inverter suddenly demands 231 amps, but your single battery only has a 150 amp BMS, it's going to instantly trigger a disconnect to protect the cells. From the outside, it looks like your inverter just randomly died. But actually, it's just the BMS doing its job, protecting itself from that capacity mistake we talked about. To try and fix this, people often wire batteries in parallel, but that leads us to the parallel sharing illusion and unequal loads.
People love to assume that a massive 240 amp load will just naturally divide perfectly into an ideal split of 60 amps per battery. But that's a total illusion. In reality, electricity is incredibly lazy. It will always take the path of least resistance. So slight differences in cable lengths or how tightly a bolt is screwed down create different levels of electrical resistance. This forces one single battery in your bank to take on way more of the load than the others. It works harder, it heats up, and eventually it triggers its own BMS shutdown, which then creates a catastrophic domino effect across your whole system.
Now let's trace that massive current outside the battery and look at external hardware risks, specifically cables, fuses, and bus bars. You've really got to think of your system like a literal chain. For your inverter to actually use those 231 amps safely, that current has to jump through a series of physical checkpoints without generating catastrophic heat.
It has to flow from the internal battery cells, pass through the delicate BMS electronics, travel out through your DC cables, and finally cross over your fuses and bus bars. Every single component in this chain has to be rated to safely carry that immense current.
If your cables are even slightly undersized for a 200+ amp load, the electrical resistance will literally turn them into dangerous heating elements. The physics here are totally unforgiving. Voltage drop equals current multiplied by resistance. Higher current means more energy lost as heat and significantly lower efficiency. A cable might physically fit perfectly into the back of your inverter, but if it's electrically undersized, you aren't just losing power. You are looking at a severe fire hazard.
And then there are fuses. This is a massive blind spot for so many builds. A lot of people honestly just guess what size fuse they need. But listen, a fuse is totally useless if its rating is higher than what the cable itself can handle. The golden rule here is that a fuse must protect the cable conductor, period. If your wire maxes out at 150 amps, but you just slap a 250 amp fuse on it, the wire will literally melt its own insulation and burn up while the fuse just sits there intact, completely unaware there's even a problem.
Then we have bus bars. They make an installation look super clean, right? But they have strict continuous current limits too. If you expand your battery bank over time and add more batteries without checking your original bus bar ratings, you can easily turn that solid piece of metal into your weakest link. And don't even get me started on loose connections. If you don't use a torque wrench to tighten your lugs to the manufacturer's exact specs, all that resistance concentrates right at the terminal. The cable might be fine, but that loose connection becomes an intense hotspot that can literally melt your equipment.
So how do we adopt the right engineering mindset and prevent these expensive failures?
It really all boils down to this. A system is only as strong as its weakest component. We absolutely have to adopt a current-first engineering mindset. You just have to realize that having the largest, strongest, most expensive battery bank in the entire world simply cannot overcome a single undersized cable, a poorly rated fuse, or a cheap BMS.
Honestly, you might want to take a screenshot of this checklist right now. This is your essential guide to ensuring every single component can handle maximum current safely. Before you buy anything, calculate your true inverter current. Check your battery's BMS discharge limits, not just the amp-hour capacity. Make absolutely sure your cable ampacity matches those DC loads. Coordinate your fuses to protect those specific cables, and always validate your bus bars and physically torque down your connections. Following this checklist is how you build a system that won't ever leave you unexpectedly in the dark.
So I'm really curious about your setups out there. Have you ever experienced one of those sudden BMS shutdowns right when you needed power? Or maybe you've discovered a terrifyingly melted cable in your own build. What is the absolute highest current you've ever seen flowing through your system? Think about the weakest link in your setup right now. What is it? And is it genuinely engineered to handle the load? Drop your experiences down below. Let's keep learning from each other. Thanks so much for hanging out with me for this explainer. And remember, always respect the current.